Trump promises sub $2 gas, a popular promise to voters that will ultimately leave them disappointed and ultimately wondering why he can't deliver. This is an article I just published on Substack. I'll share it with you now, if you want to stick around. Regardless of anyone's political leanings, I think most of us can agree that when it comes to politicians and their campaign promises, one thing is clear. They are often hyperbolic fairy tales designed to excite the base. One of the most shocking campaign promises I ever heard was no more drilling, as we all remember too well. When I heard this promise made by then candidate Joe Biden, I was naive enough to believe that surely nobody would take that promise seriously. Boy, was I wrong. It would certainly not be a stretch to say the current LNG pause is an attempt to appease those voters whose passion for the environment has somehow not translated into them trying to learn about the energy needs of our world, but rather dictate to us what our energy future should consist of without that critical piece of knowledge. I sincerely cannot even guess if Joe Biden thought it was something we could do or if it was just more political speak. I did feel strongly that it was a mistake, as he was making a wild promise to a group of people who were already going to vote for him that he could not possibly keep and would only pay for later. Now, all that being said, the current promise by now candidate Donald Trump of sub $2 gas is an entirely different animal, but it will have the same impact on the oil and gas industry. Let me explain. For one, politically speaking, it's a great, terrible promise to make. Yes, I said a great, terrible promise to make. You see, after several years of gas prices being higher under Joe Biden, of course, that's a promise you make. It's a complaint many Americans have. They also remember the lower prices under Trump, so naturally they believe that he can pull it off, even though he likely cannot. The thing those people do not remember is that Donald Trump walked into office with low gas prices and an industry still trying to recover from a devastating crash in 2015. They don't remember that gas prices increased in his first and second year as president and only dropped again from yet another crash at the end of 2018. And for some reason, they have difficulty connecting the dots of low gas prices and COVID. At the end of the day, a second term for Donald Trump would not look like the first regarding gas prices. This is not the same industry it was even a few short years ago. Capital discipline is king, and OPEC would not be keen to increase production for him as they did in 2018, causing that very crash. In addition, we don't have the refining capacity we did back then. Lower gas prices in today's world would take even lower oil prices than it did a few years ago. So short of some deep and prolonged oil market crash, Trump's hands are pretty much tied when it comes to gas prices. Ironically, or not, depending on your perspective, the blame for continued gas prices above $3 in a Trump presidency will fall on the same shoulders it always has, the U.S. oil producers. Yeah, there will be a lot of threats and bluster towards the Middle East and maybe even some harsh words for U.S. producers, but when it's all said and done, the $2 gas will not come. It's simply not in OPEC's interest, it's not in Russia's interest, and it's not in the U.S. producers' interest to oversupply a market in an industry that will spend the rest of its life under attack around the world. Simply put, gasoline is about the only product in the world that Americans think they should pay the same price for today that they paid 25 years ago. So why exactly is it a great, terrible promise to make? Well, for starters, he doesn't have to worry about seeking re-election, so there are no consequences for broken promises. Secondly, Trump supporters largely live in states with the lowest gas prices in the country already. So if those gas prices find themselves close to $2 in, say, Texas, even though they may be $2.79 on a national average, he can go ahead and claim victory. Heck, he may even stand on the deck of an aircraft carrier with a big sign behind him. So if you're not familiar with Substack is a place for writers and journalists to go and basically freelance and write articles. There are a ton of experts on all different matters, all different shapes and sizes on Substack. So if someone puts out a weekly newsletter or an article or two a week, what would happen is you would receive an email, hey, Matt wrote an article, and you can just open up your Substack app, which is a reader app, and read the article. I joined Substack to read Robert Bryce. So it costs nothing to subscribe if you want to read my content on Substack, as I'm going to be spending more time creating content on more legitimate platforms other than TikTok. That is mattrandolph.substack.com. Go check it out.